on this campus, Dipak Gyawali ji. Actually, this topic was discussed between Chancellor Saab and me, and I suggested this topic. But after listening to Dipak ji's speech in Delhi recently, in one of the SEDET meetings, I feel I have sort of delimited it. The way he spoke about modernity, the way he deconstructed the present dominant neoliberal model of development and how it is not anti-development, how it is destroying our traditional knowledge system, delegitimizing knowledge systems, ignoring our resources and our strength in our traditions. So the way he analyzed development, modernity, it was all very eye-opening that he is not only a trained engineer, he has studied and read and internalized from the book called The Society. And it's not just his Nepali society, his understanding of not just the South Asia, but globally in very prestigious institutions in the Nordic region, in the main Europe, in UK, all over the academic institutions, he is in the deciding position on their governing boards, on their advisory boards. So I can't go over the list. I can only say that our relationship, the intellectual political relationship, goes back about 35 years plus. It was at the time of an initiative on democracy, deepening democracy. It was called Lokayan. Lokayan is again a Sanskrit word which means where people live, or movement towards people. So he was visitor to that with senior political scientists and political sociologists. You might have heard their name, Professor Ashish Nandi, Rajni Kothari, Professor D.L. Sheth. These were the people through whose interaction I got his imagination and attention, and since that time we have worked together in many of the social movements also, like he has participated as a key person or a chief guest to NAPM, if you have heard that network's name, National Alliance of People's Movement. So I know nothing about his formal university positions all over the planet. I only know that he is very unique kind of trained engineer, trained professional who has dissected his own profession, the engineering, how it is becoming controlled by the vested interests, and it is not doing the real engineering, scientific engineering. That is his main contribution to the global discourse. Today, I know your buses leave at a particular time, but university has arranged that they leave at 5. So we try to finish things by 4:30. So I invite Dipak Gyawali ji to make his presentation, and after his presentation there will be question answers as there were in the morning. Dipak.
Thank you. I think some of you were there this morning at the lecture by Kumarji. What was interesting to me as I listened were a couple of things. One, the centrality of engaging with society, and call that politics, call that development, but it is engaging with society. Now and the other mentioned by your director, which is interdisciplinary. Now I'm going to talk about the hydroecological kind of unity of the Himalaya Ganga, as we call it, Himalaya Ganges, where Nepal-India relations are inextricably tied. I will not go into specific details of all the problems that we have between Nepal and India. That's not my purpose here. The purpose is to try to, start thinking, outside the box, behind the box, every which way except, straight at the box. Because we've got to be able to figure out, what are the deeper underlying tectonics that's taking place so that we can understand the reasons behind it. So you read a newspaper and what you find is, the regular stuff, the newspaper reports so and so said this and so said that and all. And it leaves you completely, befuddled, wondering what's happening. But as intellectuals, as professionals, it behoves us to be able to step back and understand that underlying dynamics, not just to be able to engage with our society better, but also to do our own professions better. As engineers, a lot of you are in the technical professions, you could be the best engineer and do the best design, but if your design does not match what society needs or wants, you're a failure. And I can show you hundreds of examples in Nepal. In Nepali we use an expression called Vikas Chihan, and what that translates is development tools. And I'm sure, I see a lot of people here from Africa, I'm sure you must have development projects there that were bad, and you have rusting houses and rusting barrages or whatever that never worked. Now, these were done by very smart people, some of the best education. What went wrong? So this is what has been bothering me most of my professional life. As I struggle as an engineer and struggle as a political economist of resources, trying to understand things. I'll start with a simple example from an ethnographer friend of mine. He's one of the oldest ethnographers of Nepal. Now, ethnography as a subject is very interesting. And I've always joked that in my next life I like to be an ethnographer. Why? Because, as scientists we have to find our data by drilling or going up in space and looking down at things. It's really complicated stuff we do, right? Ethnographers have a much better job. They collect their data by going to the village and sitting with villagers and drinking beer. And they get a lot of information and data that no satellite can give you. So he described recently in a program I had organized of rice grown in a district in Nepal called Jumla, which is a mountainous district. It didn't have road till very recently. There's no road, isolated, high up. Now, it's a mountainous district, and villagers were growing rice at 6,000 feet. Now, at 6,000 feet, you don't grow rice. Rice is meant to grow in the flat, hot plains in the delta. Now, how do they grow rice at 6,000 feet? The growing season is very small, it's very cold up there. Even in August, if the cloud comes over and covers it, you shiver. That's how high and cold it is. Well, it turns out that there was a whole complex set of things at work that have developed over years. That means villagers maximize that growing time by soaking seeds in the river in a gunny sack for weeks before, for laying the seedling bed not outside of the field but in their home next to their hearth to get the maximum heat. And in fact, on top of the seedling bed, putting branches and putting the bedding on top of it so that the body heat too goes down to allow the seeds to germinate. Now that is not enough. When the planting time comes, transplanting of rice, you need labor. You need lots of labor. Rice is a very, very labor-intensive occupation. People have migrated out to work seasonally. There's not enough to eat there for the whole year from the farms. There's a rule, a cultural rule come right down through generations, where on Chaitra 12, which coincides with about 25th of March, you have to be back in your village. That's a rule. And if you don't come back on Chaitra 12, your family has the right to conduct your death rituals, assuming you died somewhere. It's a very, very powerful thing. Now you see, just to grow rice in Jumla that high, which, let me tell you, is no meaner feat, no different from having a buggy on the moon or Mars by NASA. There are a whole lot of complex things have to be done. Social behaviors have to be in a certain way. Technologies have to be developed in one way. And all that has to fit into a mosaic where one bit goes out of whack and the whole system collapses. If people don't come back on 25th of March, there is no rice. If you don't soak your rice seeds properly in a river for 3 weeks in a proper manner, they won't germinate. If you haven't made your grading properly, it doesn't work. What I'm driving at is that good engineering, good technical sciences need to be able to see that and go down and understand how it works. And given that we have modern education, which we think is better than traditional, at least that's our pride, but try and see if those things can be improved upon. And most of the problems in development have happened because very bright people like us, with a degree from Harvard or Berkeley or wherever, think we know everything, design something, and lump it on the villages. It doesn't work. Out of the 200 mosaic, 200 different things, all kinds of things can go wrong, and they do go wrong. Okay. So, when we look at Nepal and India, tied by the mighty rivers that flow into the Ganges, there's a lot of things those rivers do. They sustain life. They are united. It's one of the most massive, not just conveyor of water from all the rainfall on the Himalaya and all the melting glaciers and so on. It's also the most massive conveyor of sedimentation. The Himalayas are the highest mountains in the world, and they're still rising. And not only are they rising, they're eroding just as much as they're rising. And this is a natural process. And if this erosion didn't happen, you would not have either Bangladesh or Bihar or any such place. Because over the millions of years, these things have been filled up, the Petri Sea has filled up and made what is today Bangladesh and Bihar and other places. Now, so to intervene in a system like this, you've got to understand the nature, the physical fact of where these things are happening, but you also got to understand the society within which you are intervening. I'll give you one more example. One of my early studies was of an area where United Nations had installed a lift irrigation system and it was not working. There were all kinds of problems with it, and they of course hired consultants like me, and I go. But because I work very differently, I have to tell the UN, I'm sorry, but the terms of reference you made is meaningless because the problem is elsewhere. Where is the problem? Several things. And the problem was in history. The problem was in society. That they had a very complex system with that river where people got together to divert the water during the dry season to grow rice. Okay, this is in the flat Tarai plains of Nepal. The problem was, sometime in 1961, and a development agency whose name I shall not give you now, came and built a dam in 1961. In 1962, the river moved away. It happens in Africa, it happens in Latin America, it happens in Asia. So you can go there to the town of Mujwal in Nepal right now and see that monument to man's stupidity of building a cement concrete dam on a delta fan where the river just moved away. Now that is the comedy part of it. The tragedy part of it was that the downstream area where the irrigation was supposed to be done had been done by traditional means, by farmers, okay? But in our wisdom, our engineers carved up the system completely with different water management styles required, which was not there. And when the river moved away from the dam, no water was coming in. So the entire agricultural system there collapsed. And people had to survive. You can't grow rice, you can't eat, what do you do? So they all became bandits. To survive, you had to feed your family anyway somehow. This is exactly what has happened in Somalia because of the collapse of the state and the lawlessness. The Somali coast was not patrolled. You had, European and American firms coming and dumping their pollution there. You can't dump it in places that are well patrolled by gunboats. So since the Somali state had kind of collapsed, they dumped it. That destroyed the fishery completely. Now the poor farmers there, the poor people there were fishermen. They would go out on their traditional dhows to the ocean and catch fish and feed themselves and feed the rest of the people by selling some fish. No fish, what do? Collapse. They had to do exactly what the farmers of Matsuar in Nepal had to do. They can only use that skill, which is fishing. So what do you fish for if you can't fish for fish? You start fishing for tankers. And you have this famous case of Somali pirates. Capture a tanker, ransom it, and sell that tanker again in the market. That's exactly what they've done. So this, you see, when wrong kind of interventions happen, you end up in all kinds of trouble. Now for the Nepali case, the traditional technology was brushwood dams. And I'm sure, I've asked this question at Harvard, at MIT, in Oxford, all kinds of places. And I've asked, does any engineering institute teach traditional technology, brushwood dams? We teach our engineers cement. We teach our engineers cement and concrete. But we have not taught them how farmers over the centuries had managed their irrigation system of diverting river water with brushwood dams. Now, I've been studying this brushwood dam for a while now because I was forced to study it, seeing all the mess that get created with concrete dams. And suddenly I realized that here is an ecologically very sensible technology. During the monsoon, nobody needs water, right? It flows. And your problem is not to get water to the field, but to get water out of the field at that time. Comes the dry season when you want to get a second crop. The river level is very low. The farmers go in groups as much as 18,000 at one time. 24 hours, 18 hours each. And they use bamboo stakes, brushwood, hot stones and all to divert part of the river, not everything, and bring it to the fields. And they have for centuries been getting a second and a third crop every year. Okay? Now, comes the monsoon, what happens? These are very unstable structures, of course, of brushwood dam. And the dam gets washed off. Fine. Disposable dam. Can you think of an ecologically more friendly technology? Here it is. Now, what we should have done as an engineering profession is help farmers improve that. Farmers are having problems. It's not that brushwood dams are perfect. There's a labor problem. These days, you can't find enough people to do voluntary work. So what the managers of the system want are simple technologies that will minimize labor. Instead of having 18,000 people, maybe just 2,000 people with a simple backhoe and things like that. But we tell them, because we only know cement technology, we tell them to build a cement dam. Now this is the kind of contradiction I have seen in my profession, causing untold misery, untold problem. So what I am arguing here is the Himalaya Ganga, the Himalaya and the Ganges, is right now also struggling at a higher level with the kind of technology we should have for the betterment of the lives of our people. It's not always that an imported technology is the best. Even as I am speaking to you here, my Prime Minister is in Delhi, talking to Narendra Modi, and there's a demonstration going on in Kathmandu. It's already on Uttarakhand. Okay, you see the big dam in Uttarakhand. Okay, now I understand. Okay. Now the problem is, at this very point in Kathmandu, there's a big demonstration going on, and I would have been there if I was not lecturing you here. Warning the Prime Minister not to sign treaties with India, to build another dam or do something like that. Now you say, wait a minute, what's going wrong? Something is going wrong there. Something is not right. Now, there's lots of things not right, and one of them is precisely what is the need of the society there. And in that, as engineering profession, I think whether we work for our governments, whether we work in the private sector or we work for fancy places, especially if we work for fancy places like the World Bank, we have singular duties. Not that we haven't understood our equations, not that we don't know how to do the, whatever it is, Reynolds equation or Kennedy's equation on hydraulics or something. We know all that. We know our differential equations perfectly. But we haven't managed to get to an understanding of our society. This morning, there was a plea that we also look at interdisciplinarity. Now, this is something that I have been doing for a long time, being forced to do, let me say. And this is my view on interdisciplinarity. A subject like water or energy, and frankly every other subject, but these are my two subjects, so I know these two subjects very well. Water and energy are not subjects. They are the focal point, the intersection of every other subject you know. And I dare say that water intersect just about every department you can think of in a university. Atmospheric physics, of course, you need to know how much water is coming down in precipitation. Hydraulics, you have geology, yes, of course. Structural engineering, yes, of course. Electrical engineering, yes, of course. Sociology, yeah, of course. You want to know what's happening there, and if people are protesting, you need to find out why. Economics, yes. Right down even to literature and spirituality. Because most of our waters and most of our rivers are considered sacred. And when you start intervening in something like that, of course people are going to get excited. Of course they're not going to like it. So it's up to you as a technical person to have a prior knowledge of what might go wrong. And it's not what might go wrong in a gearbox or in a circuit diagram somewhere. It's what can go wrong in many other places like that. Now, what is interdisciplinarity? If you really go into this subject, there's all kinds of stuff. There is multidisciplinarity, there is interdisciplinarity, there is transdisciplinarity. I mean, it can get mind-boggling in a while. But in very simple terms, it is this. You're an engineer, you're an economist, you're a lawyer, and there is a problem in your project, okay? Multidisciplinarity means a group of people get together, an engineer, a geologist, an economist, or lawyer, what have you, and they bring their toolboxes to address the slice of the problem that is amenable to their toolboxes and their discipline. So a lawyer will look at the legal aspect, the engineer will look at the structural and other aspects, the geologist will look at the geology, the economist will look at economics. The problem then comes after that. These very bright people have looked at all this in a multidisciplinary way. But who puts it all together? Unfortunately, we put it together and expect the decision maker to do it. Now, what is this mythical decision maker? It's probably a politician who's got very little time to read anything except the morning editorial in the newspaper. And we expect them to put together all this. No, it's not possible. This has to be put together by professionals who also are interdisciplinary. And being interdisciplinary means looking at the problem of your discipline from the perspective of another discipline. You are an engineer and you say here's a problem, then you have to, as an interdisciplinary analyst, be able to say, okay, why are the lawyers, how is this a problem for the lawyers? What are they seeing it as a problem? How is this being seen as a problem by sociologists? How is it being seen as a problem by the economists? And then try to redefine your own definition of the problem, your own design, by imbibing the concerns of other disciplines. That is interdisciplinary. And this is something often that doesn't get taught in universities simply because this is not possible. And this is something that generally comes about through practice and work. Now in a university, this comes out better if a university has got a very strong internship program. You know, you put those people into a position where they have to begin to struggle with these kind of problems. This also leads to the other concern, which is lateral thinking. If there is a problem, there is very little chance you're going to be able to solve it with straightforward thinking, or as we call it, textbook engineering. Because probably the problem came about because of textbook engineering. Okay. Now, how do you get out of it? Yeah, of course, you've got to know all your equations, you've got to know all this stuff. But you've got to be able to step back, reflect, and go around the problem and look at it from the other sides. It is interdisciplinary, but it's also lateral thinking. So you see a solution to a problem elsewhere that probably your discipline is not giving. Example I'll give you is the flood on the Kosi River. The Kosi is one of the major tributaries coming off the Ganges, coming out of Nepal. It's one of the most violent rivers in the world. And because it drains 5 or 6 of the highest mountains in the world, from Mount Everest to Kanchenjunga to Macau to all these others, they carry a lot of silt. And it carries so much silt that it's extremely difficult to do the kind of engineering for river control that grew out of universities in Europe, where rivers, you know, what they carry as silt is negligible compared to what ours carry. Ours carry huge boulders almost the size of this spoon, you know, we come tumbling down sometimes when we have these massive floods. So lateral thinking, I'll give a couple of examples. For handling the flood in the Kosi, the standard engineering thinking was building embankments. You know, you build an embankment and make sure that the river, when it rises, doesn't spill over. Sounds logical, right? Very logical. It works in Arizona, because Arizona is a desert. And when the Colorado River goes down there, it's going through a desert. So if the Colorado is flooding and you build an embankment, the flooded Colorado will not spill over this side. In our part of the world, the trouble is, we are not a desert. And rain falls outside the embankment also. So if you build an embankment, what happens is, the river might not be spilling over. It does, I'll tell you in a second why. But in normal cases, let's say it doesn't spill over. But you have a lot of rain falling here, which would, after the flood subsided, go back into the river. But now it can't, because the embankment is blocking it. It's flow back into the river. So you have massive waterlogging. In Bihar, the state of Bihar in India, is a major disaster, environmental disaster, which Bihari environmentalists have been saying, is the worst environmental disaster outside of war. The spree of embankment building that happened after India's independence, the British were very, very careful of it. They were not very anxious to build embankments because they knew the trouble that would come. But after India's independence, thousands of kilometers of embankment were built. The result of it has been that there's a massive amount of waterlogging, and land that would have given you second and third crop, it is so fertile, with no fertilizer used, that land now gives you one crop if the monsoon fails. And you can use the waterlog to grow something. Now this is a major tragedy, and that is the result of bad engineering. Now what should be done, what should have been done if you are a lateral thinker and interdisciplinary thinker, is to say, well, how long does the flood last? A normal flood actually lasts about 4 days on an average, maybe up to 13 days. Okay. So instead of building a permanent embankment, what we would do is build houses on stilts. You can use the bottom of the house for everything, from playing ping pong to putting your cattle to doing everything, okay, for 361 days of the year. And for 4 days when the flood comes, you all live up there, and once the flood goes, okay, come back with very fertile silt left behind. Now, this is a solution that does not come out of civil engineering and hydraulics. This is a solution that comes out of architecture and urban planning and whatever you call it. So you should be able to do that kind of lateral thinking. I give you another example recently, and this is something that's very positive at a very large scale, several generations. If this happens at all, it will go beyond my lifetime, I'm sure. The government of India recently has passed, for the first time, something that I as an environmentalist can support, which is they have declared 111 rivers around India, including those of the Himalaya, coming from the Himalayas, such as the Ganges and the Brahmaputra, Ganga and Brahmaputra, as waterways, inland waterways. That is, ships will now be moving there. They will be developed so that ships can move. Now, I have been very supportive of this, and I have been going around trying to argue that this is one of the most sensible things to have come out of India in the last half century. Okay? And the reason is this. There's basically a few reasons. One, no region of the world has developed without developing inland transport. The Mississippi that bisects the United States is navigable from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to the Canadian border. The Rhine is navigable from Netherlands, Rotterdam, all the way to the Swiss border, to Switzerland actually, even deep inside Switzerland. The Volga River is navigable from the Black Sea via the Don into the Volga and all the way up to the North Sea and the Baltics. Now, why is this important? Because riverine transport, the energy cost of it, a diesel 1 horsepower engine would push 150 kilograms on a road, 300 kilograms on a rail, and 4,000 kilograms on a waterway. The energy cost is practically nothing when you transport things by river. Now, of course, we're not going to transport high-value goods like fancy dresses and jewelry or something by barges. You're going to transport construction material, grain, coal, all these heavy things. And it's so cheap, and economic development only happens that way. China did not develop its waterways for a long time. They had these small boats. But 1984, when they started taking off economically, they realized that the roads were getting congested, and they developed water transport. Today, in just a span of almost 30 years, China has more traffic internally and internal navigation, riverine navigation, than United States and Europe combined. And within China, almost half their entire traffic of trade is by, about 49%, is by inland waterways. And in India, it's only 3.5%. Now that leads to competitiveness that is obvious in the rest of the world. So this is the economic argument. As an environmentalist, I am highly in favor of this for a very simple reason. Again, lateral thinking. There's a lot of conflict between Nepal and India, and I'll get to that in a second, on water. But if navigation were developed on the rivers, we would, for heaven's sake, at least have water in the river. You can't have navigation without having water, right? The current policy is to suck the river dry and fill it up with sewer. I'm sure many rivers in their capitals in Africa are having the same problem that I'm having with the Bagmati in Kathmandu, or Yamuna in Delhi, or Nile River in Pakistan. At least if you say navigation is a major policy, then you would have water in the river. And the water would have to be relatively clean, because otherwise barshmen would choke and die. That's the environmental reason. And the geopolitical reason is that people in the high mountains, hills, are not very happy about having big dams built and their villages drowned, so that people in the plains get free water in the dry season. However, it's that water from the dam released in the dry season increases the level of the river in the dry season, allowing barges to come all the way to the mountain base. A lot of places in Nepal, I know, people would be happy to have dams, because now goods could come much cheaper all the way deep into the mountains. So there is this lateral thinking, that ties up consumer interest of cheap goods, ecological interest of having clean river water, and several other interests that can come together to talk about a new kind of development and a new kind of river engineering that we have not had in the past. I'm just giving you an example of the potential that is around there. Now, why have we not come to this kind of a sensitive development? The main reason is because we are under what we call pressures of modernity. Now, all of us want modernity. Come on, there is no two way about it. But the question comes, there is modernity and there is modernity. Let me give you an example of something that struck me, because these days I've started to become a philosopher of science. This is my mistake. But I was reading something where they describe the invention of the radio. You know that Marconi and Tesla and all these guys invented the radio. When the radio was invented, it was invented practically in a garage with very little money. Okay? And when the radio came, it really improved the well-being of people, because the whole world came to your kitchen. You could turn on the radio in the kitchen and chop up your potatoes and do things while listening that this is what happened there, this is what happened there. The whole world came to your kitchen. You got information from the whole world right in your kitchen. So this was a major increase in quote-unquote well-being. The next thing that came was the black and white TV. Now look, black and white TV was invented in a pretty expensive lab, the Bell Lab, I believe. It's American. Compared to the radio, what did it add to the well-being? It added a visual dimension. Previously you heard that there was, fighting and war here, Now you can see pictures of that war. But your well-being has increased only marginally, because before you knew there was a war, and now you know there is a war, except that you just see a couple of pictures of it. Nice, all right. But in terms of your real well-being, the increase is only marginal. Now next, the color TV was invented at a huge cost. in very expensive lands. All that is added was just a bit of color dimension to what you have. So compared to the radio and the color TV and the black and white TV and the color TV, what you see is what is called the diminishing returns of technology. Now this is a very important social issue that one has to think of. Okay, modern technology, that's fine. iPad, iPhone, and all that. I mean, half the time, I'm not on Facebook. I refuse to stay and my children are very upset. But I said, no, I have no time for Twitter and Facebook. The main reason is I have no time to, get messages that so-and-so is getting on a plane and so-and-so has gone to the bathroom and so-and-so has done this. Wait a minute, I can't be drowned with this kind of information. Yeah, you get a lot more information. But how much of it is junk and how much of it is noise and how much of it is real information? It does help sometimes when you're in a remote, strange country and you can't find a taxi and can't do these things. Yes, it does help. But how much of the information you're actually getting, what percentage of it is really useful, this is something to reflect over. It's something to really reflect and say, wait a minute, So, pressures of modernization of the Himalaya Ganga on the rivers, come in the following way. As we understand that complexity. Again, on Himalaya Ganga, let me tell you, when you start from the southernmost tip of Nepal, which is on the southeast end, it's only 60 meters above sea level and only 16 kilometers away from Bangladesh. It's tropical. Subtropical, whatever. Okay. If you start with that 60 meters above sea level and head northwest and go 200 kilometers, you'll end up straight on the top of Mount Everest, which is Arctic condition. So in Nepal, you can see that we go from tropical to Arctic in a span of just 200 kilometers. To find an equivalent and all the ecological zones in between, warm temperate, cool temperate, alpine, you name it, they're all there in that 200 kilometers. To find an equivalent diversity in a transect like that, you would have to go from Lagos in Nigeria to Tromsø in Norway to get the same ecological diversity. Now, what this ecological diversity does in the Himalaya Ganga is that it provides amazing ecological niches where specific products can be grown and other products can't. And the people living there also evolved with those food habits, clothes habits, and every other habit very specific to the economy. Now, when we are intervening down the Himalaya Ganga with one type of technology and one type of consumer in mind, we invariably will make mistakes. We invariably will invite opposition. And that's what's happening. There's people who are living one way and want this kind of improvement in life, do not like having these damages put upon them and being told that they should do something else. So that is one. The other problem is, in this complexity, the problem of the market. Now, market is a very powerful instrument. It's very efficient. There's all kinds of things very efficient. We know that. The trouble with the market is that it has a tendency to overvalue one aspect and undervalue equally important other aspects. Somebody once said that a market counts things that can only be counted and does not count things that really count. Think of it. In the Himalaya Ganga, what is overvalued is hydropower, and what is completely undervalued is irrigation use, flood control benefits, fisheries, and a whole lot of these other things. Now, the trouble is with fisheries, and the Mekong, for instance, where I have done some work, on the Mekong River, there's plans to build hydropower, and there's huge opposition coming around. Why? Because in the Mekong, 60% of the protein that the people of the Mekong consume comes from the Mekong. And if you build dams on the mainstream of the Mekong, Mekong is the river that comes all the way from China through Laos, Burma, into Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. Natives out there. 60% of the protein that they consume comes from the Mekong. It's very rich in terms of fishing. And nobody knows what a mainstream dam will do to the fisheries. And if the fisheries in Mekong collapse, that means people 40%, 60% of the reporting goes. And so people are worried. The trouble is, the market is only valuing hydropower and not valuing fisheries. And this is the kind of conflict that we are in the middle of, and this is what we should be sensitive. Embankment I have already talked about. This is a very, it's a technology that is not suited to the hydroecology, because we saw in the case of Nepal that if you build an embankment, of course there's water out here and water can't go back, there's water logging and you lose all the land, okay, to water logging. But worse than that, you build an embankment, I said the water does come, but with water comes matter, silt, sedimentation, and the riverbed starts aggregating. It starts rising. You can go to the Kosi River and look at the river from a certain point, and you see the river here between the embankments, and the river bed is somewhere here. You look at the surrounding land, and that's 4 meters below. Of course, that embankment is going to breach, as it did breach in August 2008. And it breached at a time when there was not even a flood. The river was only at 60% of the average flow for the month of August. So why was it? Because these embankments are, built with mud and all that, and they are going to go when the pressure of the water 4 meter high comes on them. Okay? So this is, we have unquestioningly adopted wrong technologies, I would say, or at least technologies that do not match our ecological needs, our socio-cultural needs. I described to you already this disposable dam. We should have been telling our universities to find better technologies to improve upon these disposable dams, retaining the disposableness, which is a very ecologically friendly thing to do. Right now, you must have known that the dam industry, the biggest debate is about decommissioning old dams. And the cost of decommissioning one of these cement dams is almost as high as the cost of building one. It's a big issue. It's a big issue in North America and Europe, okay? And it's coming down here too with us. The other point is also this intensive farming through pesticides and what is called soil mining. The soil has nutrients, and the crops that you eat is nothing but that nutrient that comes into the soil in the form of wheat or rice or something, and you consume that. But you've got to let the soil recover. And how does the soil recover? The soil recovers through humus, earthworms, all sorts of these things coming on top of it, getting recycled, and all the nitrogen, the phosphorus, potassium, all these things, getting into the soil, ready for the next crop. Now we go for intensive farming. What happens is we are actually mining those elements, and the soil becomes infertile. And then we need to pour in more fertilizer that allows only one type of crop to be grown, and the rest of the land becomes solidified into almost a salinized desert. Okay? Now, in fact, most environmentalists now refer to trees as nutrient hogs. What are the trees doing? They send their roots down there, and as they come up, the leaves come up in the spring and all, in the autumn the leaves fall. What is basically happening is that the trees are pumping nutrients onto the soil. Okay? Now these are the kind of ecological issues that we should have tailored into our curriculum, and more important than our curriculum, we should have tailored it in to be able to rethink our own subjects. So, what I hope that I have done to you is basically argue that engineering studies and these technical subjects are subjects that are not just the science, they are also about society. And they are also about society where we should be actually studying society together with the technology to understand them better. So, I am pleading that in order to have a more ecological friendly, society friendly development interventions, where we use our technology for the benefit of both society and nature, on which society also simultaneously depends, we have to go for interdisciplinarity. We have to go for lateral thinking. And we also have to go and recognize that subjects like water are linked, that there is a water energy. Okay. I thought there was an earthquake or something. So, the final point I want to draw with you is on this whole concept of water, energy, food nexus. Right now, you've already talked and heard about what is called integrated water resources management. Are we all comfortable? You've heard of integrated water resource management. The idea was, and this grew in the 80s and 90s, that water is a very complicated subject and you've got to have integrated management. That you've got to bring in all kinds of these other things that I've talked about in managing water. Now we've come to the conclusion that you've got to go even beyond that. That just integrated water management is not enough. You've got to have a more integrated water, energy, food nexus. We are beginning to find out that with the kind of modernity that we have, something happened. What is that? Okay, not earthquake. Okay. Nexus is a concept that you will have to wrestle with in your professional life. So I'm just going to very briefly talk about it. Nexus, water, energy, food nexus means we are now already entering an era where the limits of one discipline or one subject, if you will, is imposing limits on the other. Lack of water is coming about because there's a lack of energy. India's agriculture is increasingly dependent upon groundwater. And if the price of oil, luckily this year the price of oil has gone down, but if the price of oil starts moving back to what it was, India will not be able to irrigate its farms. There's a limit to energy that you can use. Okay? Similarly, the city of San Diego in America wanted to build a 3,000 megawatt thermal power plant. Now that is the United States. The United States has money, the United States has technology, so it was not a problem. What's the problem building a 3,000 megawatt thermal power plant? The problem was there was no water. All the water in Southern California is practically a desert, the Mexican border. There was no water. So America, which had the money, which had the technology, which had everything, could not build a 3,000 megawatt thermal power plant because they had already reached the limits of their water. Same with food. We're now finding out that food is so intrinsically tied to both water and energy that from the transportation of food to the storing of food to the processing of food, they're extremely dependent on both water and energy, and limits of water and energy will prevent you from even processing and growing and processing your food. We are reaching that kind of a limit. You know that if you drink a cup of coffee, every cup of coffee you drink has 140 liters of water embedded in it. In the production process of the coffee, a cup of coffee, 140 liters of water had to be used. If you don't have that kind of water, you can't. To process, to produce a ton of steel, you need something like, aluminum is about almost half a million liters of water. A ton of aluminum. That's huge. Steel is about half of that. Paper. Chicken, or broiler chicken that you use, uses a lot of water. You can't produce your chicken without water. So the point is, we have to be able to now look at these disciplines in the form of a nexus, and this is going to occupy most of your professional lives. So I think I'll end over there.
Settle down. to me it was quite eye-opener, quite amazing. I don't know whether, because this may be your first experience in international talks, talks on international issues. If you have any questions, please. Anybody raise your hand? Yeah, please. Come, there's the mic.
Okay, so you're talking about water not being energy, but there are a lot of kinds of energy. So in what ways is it possible that we can recycle this kind of energy?
You recycle energy or recycle water?
Energy.
No, well, I know about recycling of water, and this is one of the things we are doing, reusing, recycling water. But energy, no. One of the problems with energy is once you use it, it's gone, and what you end up is with entropy. You studied the thermodynamics. You know that this energy gets degraded to a point where you cannot use it. Now there are clever ways of trying to capture that energy still. And I'll give you one example. I can't think of others. There is a technology right now in cold countries where to reduce heating cost in buildings. You know, we are worried here of cooling buildings, but they're worried about heating buildings, and heating building takes a lot of energy. Okay. Now you can do it directly by electrical heat or gas heat or something, but this is expensive. What they have now done is they have designed building materials in such a way, double-coated glass, material on the floor here, that seems to be able to capture the heat of the body of the people living in the room. Okay? Now, this is very interesting. The principle is very simple. When you, in a cold day, when you go under a blanket, you're freezing there, for a while you're just shivering, and then your body heat, sort of warms up the blanket and warms up your bed sheet and all, and you're okay. In the morning you can't get out because, you're so warm inside, and you go outside, it's very chilly, right? Okay, same principle, except it's expanded more scientifically to a whole building or a room or a hall, that this body heat of the people sitting in a room, just sitting and writing or studying or reading or watching television, even that heat is captured on the walls with special material. Okay? So there are these technologies, they're pretty fancy right now, but as costs come down, we can think of these heat that would have been wasted as entropy, for instance, can be captured. Now in industries, they do that all the time. From one process, you have waste heat, and that waste heat is used to warm the water or warm the air, before using it again. So this is one of the recycling possibilities of energy.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yeah, come on.
I'm sure your questions, because one of my philosophies when
Another thing that can be done is the proper architecture, which is part of this. Because I have been for last 4 months visiting Himalayan villages and going there, and I am desiring to make my own house, but I am fond of large spaces. So those people in the villages told me, shut up, you don't make your house here. You have to make very tiny rooms so that heat is used, body heat is used.
And also you do it south facing for the living rooms and north facing for staircase and all that, which are colder. South facing gets the sunlight. So there are these design principles also.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm from Nepal. I'm from Ilam, from the eastern part of Nepal.
Okay.
So around 2 to 3 years ago, when I was back at home, there was a dam constructed in a river called Maikora.
Yeah.
And as per me, I'm quite noticing that dam from past 5 years. It has created, the flow of water has drastically decreased, and fishes, the people who are dependent upon agriculture relating to fishery are directly hampered. And I'm observing that whenever I go back to home, the flow of river which was back in 10 years, I don't find that. So I want to know from you what government of Nepal has been doing to mitigate those problems, so that we can get the natural flow of river back once again and get the fruits of science in a meaningful way.
Okay, that's a very good question. It's not just my Kola, it's several of these developments happening all around Nepal. Several things are happening, you see. One, at the level of our management incompetences at one extreme. The other is certain phenomena natural that are happening. Okay, let me explain both. At the level of our regulations, environmental e-flow regulation has not been properly enforced. So developers have come and developed without releasing the e-flow that's required to sustain the ecology, and that's a problem in India also. It's a huge problem. The developer thinks that because they've spent so much money just to squeeze the river as much as possible to get every last drop of kilowatt hours unit of electricity out of it. Okay? As a result, they do not release the water, and the monitoring, first of all, the agreement itself is flawed that it hasn't put it properly. Second is, even when it has, the monitoring capacity of the government is not there, and I argue that that monitoring capacity has to be left actually not to the national government but to the district governments and the BDCs, okay? Because they are the best suited, located right where they are, of being able to observe and come and make a claim. Okay? Kathmandu is far away, that's for sure. That's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that springs, now my Kola is also not a snow-fed river, and it is a monsoon-fed river. The thing about monsoon-fed river seems to be in the Himalaya that the monsoon rain falls, there's no snow there on those hills. You know, the snow line is about 5,000 meters, you know, and these hills are 2,000, 3,000 meters. Okay? The rain that falls there, if there is proper afforestation, if traditional technologies have not been destroyed, what we call which means, you know, these are wallowing ponds for buffaloes. Now there's a decline in livestock keeping, so people have filled up those wallowing ponds. The result is that, to make bus parks or buildings or whatever, the result is that the rainfall that falls just rushes down in flood. Okay? It does not seep into the mountain and does not recharge the springs. So our springs are declining all over. I'm in the middle of a study in Eastmore jointly on this, and we are finding out that springs are declining, the flow is declining all across the Himalaya. And Sikkim government is the only one that has actually done serious work on this. No other government, not Himachal, not Uttarakhand, not Nepal by far. And because we have not been able to properly manage our springs, the river flows are all declining in the middle hills of Nepal. So this is also another factor. So one is lack of proper governance structure. The other is the lack of understanding of how recharge of springs and things take place, and doing things of recharge ponds to allow those springs to recharge. So we have problems on both ends, the social end and the technical end. So that's where the problem is.
One solution which people of Uttarakhand, that is Himalayan region of India, they have done it it's a very indigenous kind of thing. There's no technology involved. Villagers go to the hills, they create some kind of a small little 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter square of small pond. Just by labor, manual labor, voluntary labor. All over the hills they have created not many ponds, small ponds, waterfalls, rain happens. It is deposited there and ultimately goes down. So no big technology is required, willpower is required of the people, of the society, and of course the government. Hardly existing. Okay. Anyone else, madam? No. Okay. Now 1 minute. They were saying whatever. There's tiredness here also. I can see lots of things. I can see quite a good number of international students, and I can see our coordinators also here. And I want to talk to you for just 2 minutes. Well, now from this month onwards, we in ITM University must celebrate national days of different countries, at least of those countries from where the students have come and joined us. That means just a gathering of everyone, some song, some music, some dance, and if you are at my home, perhaps a glass of beer, we are not in Bihar. If you are here, prohibition. No liquor is allowed in the campus. At home, I'll take permission from the state government for that glass of beer which I require. Okay. It's not a spoiling, just to make you feel okay, something is going to happen there. So now it is the responsibility of each one of you that we'll also find out, Ashwin and Sharma and Jaisam, please find out from the Google calendar of traditional days of different countries. Number one, we should have some small celebration of an hour of 60 to 90 days. Second, I was thinking that last year either I forgot or something happened. We have not met as a collective. Yes, there is a gap. You are responsible. You should have reminded me, why you? You wanted to dance there, not he. If you want to dance there, you have to come. Simple. And remind me. So find out a date where we can all meet and have some, either it can be Sunday lunch on, but let the weather be a little better in October. October is okay. So in October we'll all meet. The international student chapter separate. So two things in mind. And please do not forget all of these things. Give me a chart or another sheet of all the days and years. Oh, that's very good. That's very good. So let me know a few days in advance. I can also think how to do it best. How to do it very good. Okay? Nigeria Muslims. Thank you, all of you.